Honestly, the bravest thing I ever did was go back. Not to a person, not even to a place exactly, just back to myself, in the only way I knew how, which was slow and a little embarrassing and mostly unwitnessed. There is a community garden 2 blocks from my apartment that I walked past for almost a year without stopping. I noticed it the way you notice things when you are not really looking at anything, just moving through your own fog. A chain-link fence, some raised beds, a hand-painted sign that someone had clearly redone at least twice because you could see the ghost letters underneath the new ones. I started going in October, right after things fell apart in the way things sometimes do. Not dramatically, just quietly, like a slow leak you ignore until the floor is wet. I signed up for a plot. They gave me a small laminated card with my name on it and a number, and I held that card the whole walk home like it was something fragile. My plot was next to a woman named Delia. Delia was maybe 60, maybe 70. It was genuinely impossible to tell. And she had this habit of talking to her tomato plants in a low, steady voice. Not baby talk, more like she was briefing them on the day's news. She never seemed embarrassed about it. I found that remarkable. I had a chipped enamel mug I brought every evening, dark blue with a faded white rim, and I would fill it with coffee before I left the apartment, and it would be lukewarm by the time I got there. And I drank it anyway because the ritual mattered more than the temperature. That mug had been in my kitchen since my early 20s. I do not even remember where it came from, but it became the thing I reached for when I needed to feel like I was doing something intentional. The first few weeks, I mostly just dug. I did not know what I was doing. I planted things in the wrong order, too close together, and Delia watched me with this expression that was not quite pity and not quite amusement, somewhere in between. And eventually she just started leaving little handwritten notes tucked under the edge of my mug when I arrived late. Things like, "The basil wants more sun," or "You are overwatering, trust the soil." I kept every single one of those notes. There was one evening in November, cold enough that I could see my breath, and I was crouched down doing something probably wrong to a row of garlic. And Delia was talking to her plants, and I started crying. Not loudly, just the kind of crying that happens when your body decides it is done waiting for permission. I did not try to hide it, and she did not pretend not to notice. She just kept talking to her tomatoes, a little louder maybe, like she was giving me cover. That was the kindest thing anyone did for me that whole year. I went back in the spring. The garlic had actually come up, which felt like a minor miracle, and I stood there looking at it with my lukewarm coffee, and I felt something shift. Not fixed, not healed in any clean or complete way, just different. Like the floor had dried out and I could finally see where the damage was and decide what to do about it. Delia was there. She looked at my garlic and nodded once, the way someone nods when they are genuinely impressed but do not want to make a big deal of it. She said, "You stayed with it." That was all. 3 words, but I have thought about them almost every day since, because I had not thought of it that way. I had thought of the whole thing as surviving, as getting through, as waiting for the fog to lift on its own. I had not given myself credit for the fact that I kept going back, that I kept filling the mug, that I kept showing up to something small and ordinary and mine, even when I did not feel like myself, even when I was not sure who I was going back to. There is this thing that happens when you go through something hard, where you start to believe that the version of you that existed before the hard thing is gone. Like grief or failure or heartbreak is a door that only opens one way. And you stand on the other side of it and you think, okay, that person is done. I have to figure out who I am now from scratch. But I do not think that is true anymore. I think the self you are looking for is not behind you. It is just buried a little. Under the fog, under the overwatering, under the year of walking past things without stopping. And sometimes what it takes is something embarrassingly small. A laminated card with your name on it, a chipped mug, a woman who talks to tomatoes and leaves you notes and gives you cover when you cry. I still go to the garden. My plot is better now, not perfect, but better. I have learned to trust the soil a little more. I leave earlier so the coffee is still hot when I get there. And sometimes, when I am crouched down doing something probably still slightly wrong, I think about the version of me who walked past that fence for a year. I do not feel sorry for her. I just want her to know that she was already on her way back. Even then, even in the fog, even before she knew it. The bravest thing is not the big moment, it is the quiet return, again and again, to the small thing that is yours.